Fifth and lastly, let's talk about Martin Romualdez. Why is Romualdez doing this? That I can tell you. The former speaker is in the most precarious and unstable position of his life. He feels desperate and unsafe because he is finally in real legal danger. Let me explain. 6 weeks ago, the country was set ablaze with this one headline. Zaldy Ko arrested in the Czech Republic. He was set to be shipped back home to the Philippines. What did Romualdez do? Do you remember? He panicked. He tried to leave the country. He said he had to go to Singapore for his heart condition. He was going to run like a little bitch. The office of the ombudsman courageously and correctly blocked his flight. Boying Romualdez's exact words, accurately translated. I tried to say this in Tagalog, but I couldn't. It's very difficult for me to read in Filipino. But anyway, this is the exact English translation. Open quote. We did not respond favorably to the request that he be allowed to leave. The problem is that it is too extreme of a coincidence that Zaldy Ko was captured and then suddenly Martin Romualdez intends to leave the Philippines. If this sort of behavior is continually allowed, we may lose all the people we're meant to hold on to. All the people who are meant to be made accountable or answerable will escape our jurisdiction. We too have to take care of our rights as a nation. We have a right as Filipinos to tell Martin Romualdez, you cannot leave. And what did Martin do? He panicked again. He did something he never does. He sat in front of a camera just like this and issued a statement. He said, in so many words, I know things about this administration. If I go down, you go down. That's essentially what he said. Now, what has made Martin Romualdez so desperately anxious? There's a lot of things. Apart from his overabundance of powerful enemies wanting to expose his superabundance of crimes, in my opinion, there are two main reasons, and these two reasons are both facts. The first reason is that the first family hates Martin Romualdez. They hate him. I know that many of you in the comments are skeptical of this. There's quite a number of you that think this is all for show, that this is all a ruse, and that the president won't actually go after his cousin. I understand why you think that, but I have it on good authority. I know people who are very close to the president on a personal level. I know people who work at the office of the president, and I know people who work with him on a daily basis on a political level. They all tell me that this resentment is absolutely real. Why? Because they all feel like Martin betrayed them. As a fun side note, I have heard from multiple people that work under him or have worked under him that the richest man in the country, my hero, Enrique Razon, the $14 billion man, also thinks that Martin deserves to go to jail. One, because, it's the right thing to do. And number two, it's because it's one of the ways to appease the national political climate. I think he's right. Now, I don't know for certain if this is true, but the sources that I heard this from, who said this directly to me, are very close to Mr. Razon. So I believe him. Second reason, and possibly the most important one, is that the ombudsman, Boying Remulla, who used to be very close to Martin, they're fraternity brothers, and they used to go on vacation together, that sort of thing, they're not okay anymore. They had a falling out. I asked two senators, sitting senators, who were both godfathers of mine at my wedding 2 months ago, to introduce me to Boying, and they both initially hesitated because of the fact that they told me that Boying was very close to Martin, and that might not be a good idea. But upon further investigation from people who work at the DOJ and the Office of the Ombudsman and at the Office of the President in Malacanang, they're all telling me that the feud is real. Boying and Martin are no longer friends. They're not cool anymore. So much so that the prevailing rumor is that Martin is having Boying's movements monitored at the moment. That's why Martin is spooked. That's why, for the first time in the last 3.5 years, the once all-powerful Martin Romualdez is legitimately spooked. Just last May 21, in a radio interview, Assistant Ombudsman Miko Clavano, who seems to be a really cool guy, said Romualdez's money laundering complaint had already reached the preliminary investigation stage. Clavano accurately called Romualdez the master plunderer. He said that on record. Boying Remulla earlier said the ombudsman was preparing plunder cases against Romualdez in connection with the unbelievable flood control anomalies. The complaints against Romualdez include plunder, direct bribery, indirect bribery, money laundering, and violations of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. Prosecutors are saying with their chests that Romualdez is the purported mastermind of a kickback scheme tied to ghost flood control projects with alleged kickbacks reaching approximately 56 billion pesos. The pressure is no longer just political. The Court of Appeals has issued a freeze order covering assets linked to Romualdez, including 25 bank accounts and 10 insurance policies under his name. The order also covered additional bank accounts, insurance policies, an investment account, property accounts, and real estate assets linked to an alleged business associate and a corporate entity. Not enough, in my opinion, because we all know Martin is the kind of guy that hides most of his money under a mattress. And as I mentioned earlier, the Sandigan Bayan also issued a precautionary whole departure order against Romualdez after the ombudsman said it found probable cause that he might leave the country to evade arrest and prosecution. That means the former speaker is now facing 3 layers of legal pressure: covered assets frozen, foreign travel restricted, and a money laundering complaint already under preliminary investigation. Romualdez has denied wrongdoing out of desperation and insists that there is no evidence that proves he committed plunder, conspiracy to commit plunder, or any similar offense. But with the ombudsman probe advancing, his camp is no longer only fighting the allegations. It is also fighting the public weight of a nationwide call to finally hold him accountable for his heinous sins against an entire generation of Filipinos. A call, it seems, that the Office of the Ombudsman intends to heed and honor. Because remember, people literally died because of Martin's corruption. Piecing all that together, at least in my mind, I think that the First Family, specifically President Marcos, is genuine in terms of finally making sure that Martin meets justice for these 4 reasons. Number 1, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's personal. I think that the resentment and the hate is real because the First Family, they feel that Martin betrayed them, and he did. Number 2, it's strategic. I don't see a universe where the administration goes after Sara Duterte for 6 billion pesos and doesn't go after Martin for 200 billion. I think that idea is absurd. And I think magkakagulo yan if the former is executed and the second isn't. Number 3, I think it's optical. In last year's State of the Nation address, BBM went on stage and delivered his now iconic line.
Mahiya naman kayo sa inyong kapwa Pilipino.
Mahiya naman kayo sa mga kapwa niyong Pilipino. For those that, I haven't spoken to BBM in a long time, but for those that are close to him, they all tell me that that was directed at Martin. The State of the Nation address this year is in July. That's in about, as of this taping, that's in about 6 weeks. I think that the best thing that he could do in terms of optics at the moment is to ascertain that the guy that he was referring to last year, at last year's State of the Nation address, is now presented to the country on a silver platter behind bars when he delivers the State of the Nation address around July 13. And lastly, the 4th reason, it's the moral thing to do. You know, BBM is not perfect, but I wouldn't underestimate him choosing to do the right thing in this moment, or at the very least, making sure that the ethics or the morals of this situation is considered, or is at least part of his overall assessment and consideration in terms of making sure that Martin goes to jail. So those 4 things: personal, because there's real resentment; it's strategic, because Sara can't be impeached and then Martin, wala mangyayari kay Martin. Number 3, optics, because the sauna is coming up. And number 4, because it's the right thing to do. It's moral. And that is why Martin is going after us. That is why he framed us. He caught wind of the evidence that we have against him. He knows we have the goods on him, and he knows we have more. I'll give you an example. The good people at Rappler and the good people at SMNI, 2 media companies that are ideologically disaligned in the furthest possible sense. Rappler and SMNI, although they're vastly different in many ways, have consistently maintained their integrity when it comes to going after Martin Romualdez. They didn't succumb or cave to the bayaran tactics of Martin's camp that many of these other mainstream media outlets have completely caved to. And yet, Martin didn't go after Rappler, and Martin didn't go after SMNI. Martin went after Pgmn. Why? Last year, before the flood control scandal erupted and blew up into this nationwide firestorm, Mayor Vico Soto and Mayor Benjamin Magalong, both really good mayors, were calling out people, but the only thing they were doing was they were issuing blind items. They were just throwing out blind items. The first people to explicitly call out names within the DPWH for corruption, the very first, were Pgmn and my friend CJ Hero. CJ researched, wrote, and published a revolutionary expose on Pgmn that fully exposed multiple DPWH executives under then DPWH Secretary, they're now shamed and besieged, Manny Bonoan. The 5 executives that CJ explicitly called out: Eugenio Pipo, resigned or fired. Ador Canlas, resigned or fired. Loretta Malaluan, resigned or fired. Neri Bueno, resigned or fired. And Catalina Cabral, resigned or fired and now dead. Obviously, the latter part wasn't our intention. Former Congressman Marvin Rillo was exposed also by CJ Hero for his alleged corruption in Quezon City, and he ended up losing his election in 2025 by 0.1%. That margin of victory by Bong Suntay is the closest margin of any congressional candidate in the last 30 years. We did that. Like it or not, Pgmn has a legitimate track record for doing this sort of thing extraordinarily effectively. Again, in summary, Romualdez thought they caught Zaldi, realized he was in deep shit, tried to run away, flee to another country, and when he got denied, he couldn't risk anything from blowing up on social media, especially something as destructive as what we had and have in our hands and coming from a source as historically effective as Pgmn. Get it? That's when he threw the kitchen sink at us. He hit us with everything. He pressed the apocalypse button, one by one. Framed us with an extortion plot using the filthiest NBI director of all time. Number 2, bayaran mainstream media. Number 3, he hired all these dishonest influencers. And mind you, I need to say this. If you are one of those influencers that defended Martin Romualdez or went after CJ for her unbelievably good expose, if you went after it because of the length or because she used public records, or if you criticized her for using AI in that video, you can never ever say that you're pro-Philippines or anti-corruption. What CJ did so well in that episode, through her unbelievably good research, was that she sorted through all the public records, put it all together in a way that was digestible and entertaining for the general public, for the masses. Because everybody who knows anything about anything in politics knows that corruption is not simple. Corruption is complicated. It's multidimensional. It's multifaceted. And in order for you to be able to explain this to the masses, you need to present it in a way that the masses can absorb efficiently. That's what she did. And you guys went after it, said it was a waste of time, said that it was too long, said it was nothing new. Well, if it was nothing new, why didn't you guys say it before? Why? Instead, what happened was, you guys ended up covering for Martin. Now, none of us were born yesterday. We all know that Martin does not have a base of followers that loves him. He doesn't have the pinks like Lenny or the DDS like Sarah or the loyalists like BBM. He doesn't have that. We all know that if you are protecting, defending, or supporting Martin in any capacity, it's either because you're stupid as fuck, and there's very few of you, or because you're paid. Now, any of you that did air cover for Martin during that news cycle of CJ, I'll say it again. You can never in your lives, in your entire careers, say that you are pro-Philippines or anti-corruption, because we will always call you out for it. Always. Number 4, he created the biggest troll farm in the history of the Philippines. You know, the Philippines is the troll farm capital of the world. There are more troll farms in the Philippines than in Russia and Israel combined. Did you know that? And here in the Philippines, Martin Romualdez used his very deep resources to create the biggest one ever. And I'll admit, before I fixed it, before I solved that troll farm problem that he created for us, that troll farm was quite overwhelming. He needed to make sure that when this whole fake extortion thing blew up, that he controlled or at least had massive influence on the comment sections of every mainstream media outlet and every YouTube channel and every paid influencer channel. He wanted to make sure that he controlled the narrative thoroughly and meticulously. But the problem with that kind of scale is that it's very difficult to maintain. It's like sprinting through a marathon. It's very difficult to sustain. And I don't think you guys know how to do it yet. Number 5, this one I will say very carefully. One day, and this is after I beat you in court, after our case either gets dismissed or after I beat you fair and square, one day I will tell the world the truth about the fiscal that changed the inquest details, the time that we did the inquest in the NBI, all the way up to the resolution. I know what you did. One day the truth will come out.
Ay, di no sa liwanag, magnanakaw, makulong ka na.